Hey guys, welcome to our YouTube channel. We're so glad that you tuned in. We are in our last week of our series of what to do when you don't know what to do. And we are now in the month of October, which means we are having our annual Halloween party. We have lots of candy, lots of prizes, and we cannot wait to see all the awesome costumes that you're going to be wearing on October 28th for our Halloween party. So without any further ado, play the bumper for one last time for what to do when you don't know what to do.
So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
When I was in high school, Taco Bell was one of my favorite places to go, and for a lot of my friends as well. Because, I mean, let's just be real, who doesn't love Taco Bell? I still love it today, but my body doesn't handle that food as well as it used to. But we love Taco Bell, and when we went there in high school, even though it wasn't that long ago, tacos were just $1. So it was the perfect place for us to go when you're short on cash and you don't have a ton of money to spend on amazing tacos. So one of those times I didn't have very much money and I didn't have really any money and I didn't have enough money to buy any tacos when I was with my friends. So when we went there, I just told them that I was not hungry and it wasn't a big deal and it kind of was over. But one of my friends said, hey, just go get whatever you want. I got it. Don't worry about it. And it was so awesome to have that and him say that. And I said, I'll pay you back next time I have a chance, or I'll pay you back. And then they just said, no need. You don't have to. I got you covered. And I remember those times, and that's just one of those times when I know that someone paid for my meal and I didn't have to pay them back, and how freeing that was. Not asking to be paid back was kind of heartwarming. When it comes to borrowing money for tacos, but that was a very small thing. So let's talk about the things that maybe feel like they should be paid back for. Because outside of paying money back to someone you owe, the idea of payback also comes when someone hurts us. For example, when someone talks about us behind our back, we want payback. When someone flirts with our girlfriend or with our boyfriend, we want payback. And when someone fails to text us or invite us to a group outing that we're friends with, we want payback. And in those moments when we've been hurt, we want payback. And maybe you don't go to like the scary movie level of payback where you're writing a song about torturing them for payback. But we all try to get a payback in another way, one way or another. We want them to feel the pain and hurt that we felt that they caused us. We want them to be embarrassed like we were embarrassed because of what they did. And our first reaction is almost always to get even. Or at least get something in return, even if it's just knowing our shady Snapchat comment was actually about them. And isn't it true that the closer we are to the person, the more payback we want? So most of you aren't trying to get payback for somebody you don't know and their friend what they did to them. Or you're not going to have your feelings hurt because someone else's friend got hurt. And you probably aren't going to be angry that what someone else's ex did to them. The people who are closest to us are the people that we want to have the most payback to when they hurt us. So most of us, when payback, they come in 3 different ways. So public payback, and this is when we do something that is a very obvious way, where everyone knows we were doing it against them because of what they did to us. We roast them and just saying, just kidding, throwing it at the end. But in reality, everyone knew it was real. Or passive payback. And this is more subtle. We make comments that aren't obviously hurtful, but they could be interpreted that way, but they're not obvious. Or we put subtle posts on social media hoping that they'll see it and no one else understands why we posted it, but they will. Or there's imaginary payback. Imaginary payback happens when we have an argument in our mind and we destroy them in our head. We have a better argument and a better comeback and we annihilate them, and it takes over our thoughts, but we never actually do anything. It just is filling our head with payback towards that person. But perhaps the most satisfying payback of all is enjoying watching them fall. Like when we know that we paid back, got to give payback to other people. Even if we didn't, but we watched other fails that we didn't even cause. So like if you got broken up with by your boyfriend or girlfriend because they liked someone else and then they got dumped by them like 2 weeks later, it's a satisfying feeling watching them fail, right? Or when your mom snapped at you for doing something you shouldn't have been doing and you didn't like how it felt, but then she came back and apologizing and crying because she felt bad. Or the guy who made fun of us in 3rd grade and we still really hate him for it, face plants during a pep rally game in high school, and we finally enjoy watching payback happen. In those moments, it feels like justice is happening. It feels good to see someone get what's coming for them. Whether that's good or bad, that's how we feel. And that is exactly the sort of situation Joseph found himself in at the wrap of this story. And in this series, we've been looking through the life of Joseph, who's found in the book of Genesis in the Old Testament in the Bible, the first book of the Bible. And this is your first week checking in. Man, his story is wild. It is insane, just a dumpster fire mess. And oftentimes we don't know what to do next, and he had no idea what to do next when you're looking at all the things that came his way. So early in the series, we talked about how Joseph knew he was his dad's favorite. He had 11 brothers, and he was the youngest, and he was Jacob's favorite, who was his dad. And he had these dreams where his whole family had to bow down to him and worship him because he was in a high position of power. And he told his brothers about that, and it didn't really go over so well. And since Joseph was super annoying, his brothers plotted to kill him, which seems like a slight overreaction, but nevertheless, they plotted to kill him. But one of the brothers was like, calm down for a second, let's not do that quite. And they threw him into a well and then sold him into slavery. So then Joseph, he was a slave in Egypt, and then he became a prisoner as a slave in Egypt. And Joseph, as the man was taken out of prison to interpret Pharaoh's dreams, and was then put into a high position of power, second in command underneath Pharaoh. So Joseph was eventually placed in charge of all of Egypt, and so it's not a bad outcome for a guy who was sold into slavery and sent to Egypt. But there's a plot at the twist at the end. So after Joseph, he was second in command, there was a food shortage where his family lived because there was a famine. If you remember, this is the dream that he interpreted for Pharaoh. And because of that, Egypt was ready for that famine when most of the other countries around Egypt were not. And Joseph's dad and his family were some of those people who were not prepared for that famine. So Joseph's dad, Jacob, sent his 11 brothers over to Egypt to get food and bring it back for the family. And at this point in the story, Joseph's family thought he was dead. He's been gone for years, so of course they weren't thinking like, oh, I bet we're going to see Joseph today when we're in Egypt. They had no idea where Joseph was, and they really thought he was dead, never to be seen again. So when they arrived in Egypt and saw Joseph, not knowing it was Joseph, a huge drama unfolded. And you can read some of the interactions between Joseph and his brothers in Genesis 42 through 50, and it's amazing. Trust me, you want to read it, you don't want to miss it, because there's a lot of awesome things happening in those couple of chapters. It's like watching a movie unfold. So picking up in Genesis 45, it says this: Then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, Have everyone leave my presence. So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still living? But his brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. So imagine the tension and the emotion of that moment. That Joseph was face to face with the people who tried to kill him, who sold them into slavery, and they were actually his brothers. The same brothers who were ironically asking him for help. How the tables have turned, right, in this moment. And this was a great get what's coming to you moment. But everything has been set up for this moment. Payback was finally able to just be dropped onto his brothers, and it was just given to Joseph like it was nothing. Joseph could have refused them food and not offered them anything. He could have had them thrown into prison and maybe even given them a taste of the own medicine that he was served. He could even have them killed. He was in such a high power position. So before we find out, what would you do? If you found yourself to be in this position, what would you do? Honestly, I don't know what I would do. I know what I would hope I would do, but in reality, I'm not sure. So as the story continues and we look at Joseph, he asks his brothers to walk over or stand close to him. And you can imagine the terror the brothers felt in this moment, that they were going closer to Joseph and thinking like, he's going to kill us. This is what's going to happen. And Joseph said this: I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And now, do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 years there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth and to save your lives by great deliverance. Now there's only one reason Joseph could have responded the way he did. He didn't try to get payback because he already let go of the idea of getting revenge. He had already done the hard work of forgiveness. And how do we know that? Because Joseph could look in the eyes of the ones who caused him the most grief and pain that is imaginable. And when Joseph said, do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, he was acknowledging their wrong and his hurt without causing more hurt. Only a healed person could do this. Only a person that offered forgiveness and forgave the people that wronged him could do this. Joseph chose forgiveness instead of giving payback. And we see that in the moment when he had the greatest opportunity for revenge, the greatest opportunity for payback, he didn't take it. So sometime between being sold into slavery and being reunited with his brothers, Joseph did the very hard work of giving his hurt to God and allowing God to be central in his healing. And that's why Joseph was quick to acknowledge God in the area where his brothers had caused the most pain. It didn't make what his brothers did okay. It didn't make Joseph's pain any less. It just took the real pain and the real hurt and no longer put them on the center stage. It put God there instead. That God was in the center stage and made forgiveness possible to those who hurt him the most. Forgiveness was not only for his brothers to accept, it was also a freedom for Joseph from his own pain. Joseph, he went on to tell his brothers to go get their father and move their entire family over to Egypt, where they would be safe for the next 5 years in the famine. And in Genesis 45, it says this, "And Joseph kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterward, his brothers talked with him." That may be the only thing better than payback. Reconciliation. And this is where we see God do the impossible in a relationship. Bring peace when there has only been hurt. And it's all because of forgiveness. When it comes to other people hurting us, we too have the opportunity to choose something better than payback. In fact, here's a simple way to remember this. When you don't know what to do, pursue peace instead of payback. When you pursue peace, you fight for the relationship. In other words, you can fight to win and win the argument and to be right and to make a point. Or you can fight the urge for payback and pursue peace. But you cannot do both. Joseph preserved the relationship with all of his brothers because he chose peace, not payback. And he was only able to do that because he fought for forgiveness, not revenge. And he was able to do that through the help of God. And because Joseph, he didn't have a superpower that allowed him to do this, he continually put God on the center stage, and God gave him the power of forgiveness to offer those who hurt him. And this means that you and I can do this as well, because God is able to work in our life and give us the power of forgiveness. And when you pursue peace, you lay down your right to get payback. You let go of revenge. You say goodbye to your desire to get even. And instead you choose the path of forgiveness to pursue peace in that relationship. You not only have peace with those that hurt you, you have peace with inside you as well. And here's why this is complicated. Because what happened to you isn't what happened to Joseph. In fact, I could tell you dozens of stories, and none of them would be exactly like yours. Maybe you spent the whole time wondering, do you always have to reconcile? What about when it's toxic? What about when they just continually hurt you and you just want to be done with them? Or what if you're the one doing the hurting? Each one of us has unique and complicated situations, and figuring out what that looks like to pursue peace isn't always easy. And that's why we have great leaders here that would love to talk to you and kind of decipher what pursuing peace looks like in the situations that you have happening in your life right now. So I want you to think about how you can pursue peace instead of payback. Because remember, when you don't know what to do, pursue peace instead of payback.